It's Fearless Friday. I'm Tonya Eberhardt, the founder of BrandFace, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
Hi, folks. I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was a client before I became a partner in the company, and this is the first and only personal brand building system across the globe. And we do these Fearless Fridays to help people realize, to take the fear out of putting themselves out there.
Today, guys, we are on the line with a fierce and fearless woman, Heather Picken. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Heather, and then we're going to introduce her, and then we're going to ask her some questions about how she came to be so fierce and fearless, okay? So Heather Picken is the CEO of Dolce Vita, which is a global consulting and coaching company for highly ambitious women entrepreneurs. I love that. Heather is a human behavior specialist and high-performance executive coach with a focus on business strategy and fearless leadership. Primarily, she works with female visionary leaders and executives in Fortune 500 companies using neuroscience. I can't wait to learn more. Heather is a best-selling author of 4 books, with her latest release, The Dolce Vita Formula, A Woman's Guide to a Fearless and Fabulous Life. She helps women activate their superpower. I'm just loving this bio. I don't know how I'm going to get past it. So the superpower and get them out of their own way by using cutting-edge neuroscience. She's also a founder of, mark this, guys, Fierce Femme Wines, a woman after my own heart. A woman's wine inspired to create a dialogue for change. Knowing yourself is like having a superpower, and this has been Heather's mantra, mission, and message, which you can also find on one of her bottles of wine at fiercefemme.com. Heather, what an awesome bio. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to start by having you tell us what on earth got you to this place in your life, what prepared you for this, and why do you do what you do? Give us a little more insight.
Oh, wow. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on your show. And I love, the title Fearless Friday, because that's what I'm all about. And I have to say my journey honestly started back when I was in 4th grade. I was diagnosed with a learning disorder, dyslexia. So imagine this, you're being pulled out of your classroom in front of your peers, shuffled next door to a room where they could see you. And what happened in the moment is I internalized a label, and that was stupid. And so for many years of my life, I kept internalizing the label. The end result, because your subconscious mind is so powerful, 95% of everything that you want is really derived from your subconscious mind. Maybe we could talk about that later. But what was interesting is that it really impacted me negatively, like all of the challenges from money to men, just feeling like a complete mess. And I had to learn how to break through that challenge, the fear, like one by one. And I didn't realize in the moment, like I kept asking myself, like, why do I keep going through this? I didn't realize that later on, part of my mess would become my mission. And one time in particular, I mean, I've had many, fearful moments, but at the time, this was years ago, I was living with a boyfriend. Actually, I moved cross country. Not once, not twice, or I should say twice, for a guy, 2 different guys. You'd think I'd learned my lesson, but I didn't. And so the second guy, I want to paint the picture. I did not have a car. I was living off my credit cards, and my business was failing miserably at that time. So I had a lot of fear. And so what happened, one night we had a fight, and he came home drunk, and he threw me out in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. I had to take what I had and put it in trash bags. And I scooped up my dog that I had at the time. It was like this little 7-pound Chihuahua. I was essentially homeless. I had no place to go, no friends, nothing. And I will tell you, I was scared. I was so fearful. And I told myself in that moment, I knew for some reason I was attracting this into my life. And I said, I'm going to make my mess my mission, to empower millions of women on this planet to break through all of those limiting beliefs. And it just kind of evolved into a business, a coaching consulting business, which later evolved into also one of my other companies, a wine label. But I know, you work with both men and women, but this message is just really about anyone that has fear. It's like these lessons are so necessary for us to learn.
That's so true. That's so true. But, thank goodness, because, when we're empowered, then we have the ability to say yes or no. We have the ability, like you said, to attract the right things to us. And so I love that. I love that message. Has that led you to work with certain people? I mean, we know women, you sort of, that is your focus, right? But what kind of women do you work with? What's that like?
It's interesting. So primarily I work with women, but I've also worked with men, actually in real estate. And I will tell you, so the women I work with tend to be service-based businesses. I've worked in all different industries, from real estate, anything you could basically imagine. And I will tell you, it really comes down to getting out of your own way, knowing what you want, getting really clear, and getting out of your own way. And it sounds simple, but most people don't do it because they're running on a program.
Yeah. Excellent point. Excellent point.
So talk about, like you say, you're working with men and with women, and you're preparing them for leadership. And you mentioned in some of your materials that the point of fearless leadership. Tell me what that means to you and how you prepare people for that.
Yeah, I mean, that comes in different forms. So let's just say if we're talking in the context of a business, I find a lot of people don't really give themselves permission to play on a bigger scale. And what that could look like is investing in your business. I mean, would you agree, if you want to get ahead, you have to invest in your business. You have to put some sweat equity behind it. And a lot of people don't know how to navigate around that. So you really have to have a clear vision for your business and in your life if you want to play on a bigger scale, and look at the fear. So a lot of times when I'm working with people is, number one, what specifically, like, where are you at in your business, and what specifically do you want? Like, getting crystal clear. It's like if you go into a restaurant and you ask the waiter for food and he brings back snails. I personally do not like snails. I've never tried them. I just think they look disgusting. But if you're not clear, my whole point is, if you're not clear, what happens is you will attract chaos into your business and life. And this is a process I've used, and it all goes back to neuroscience. It all goes back to understanding how your brain is like this GPS system, and you basically have to plug in exactly what you want. You have to understand what your unique formula is. And once you start doing that, you'll start creating synchronicity. You'll start attracting the right people and the right resources that you need. So it's a whole system to allow you to get through the fear. And fear actually can be beneficial as well.
Great segue into the next question, by the way. And the reason I love talking with you today, Heather, is because we do very similar things. We help people build brands that attract who they want to do business with, attract what they want into their life. And it's along the same lines, but yours is more neuroscientific in nature, if you will. So you mentioned the insecurities and the fears. Do you think most people are inhibited by those things?
I really believe that they're inhibited by it because let's just say a lot of times people have issues, let's say networking. So if we're working with realtors, I mean, you have to get yourself out there. You've got to network. You've got to build community. You've got to build your brand. And the problem is, a lot of times, is that people can feel like, or I should say, they don't have the confidence because, number one, they might say, well, there's a lot of other people in this industry, so what's going to make me different, number one. Number two, they might have a subconscious program, which really goes back to their childhood that they have not worked on. And so that disempowers them from getting into the room or online and say, this is who I am. And so you've got to identify what that is. And a lot of times what I find happens is that you might look at someone that has lots of success and you start comparing yourself. Okay, so what happens is you put that person on a pedestal and you put yourself in the pit. And so what you're doing is you're minimizing yourself in your mind. Anytime you minimize yourself in your mind, your net worth will go down. And so what I do is I help bring them up, see the balance, see whoever you perceive as having more money and success, and be able to flip the switch, make those new connections in the brain so that they have the confidence to take the action. They have the confidence to speak and have authority and credibility.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
We say it all the time. It's one of the biggest mistakes anybody makes. We cannot compare ourselves to somebody else. All of our paths are different. It's impossible. And if you do that, you set yourself up immediately. And I love the thought process of rising to where you are. I love it. Where you should be. Love it. So does that tie in with Fierce Femme Wines? I mean, so that's going to be inspired to create a dialogue for change, no doubt. So what does that look like? What's that dialogue for change along the same lines?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny because one of the things I was asking myself is how can I really get my message out there in a different way to empower women, not just women in business, but women in their careers, just women in general, mothers. And I came up with the idea of Fierce Femme because I thought about, like, what is really my superpower? My superpower is understanding how the brain works and really my inspiration. I feel like I can activate what I know people already have, especially women, then they can change their life. Guaranteed. I've done it many times. I've worked with clients all around the world, and I realized, like, this is my secret sauce. And so when I came up with the idea of Fierce Femme, I'm like, this is great. You know, I can bottle literally my inspiration and create messages of empowerment for women. So I've tied my whole brand under not only just empowering women, but just also using the vehicle with the wine, also with workshops. I'll be doing some of those in 2020. But it's just a great, fun way to remind women that we always have had the power, you know, and that we have to claim it. We have to own it.
Hey, I mean, honestly, you know, with the ability to give birth, you know what I'm saying? Like, right? You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, that's pretty important if we all want to make it. You know what I'm saying?
None of us would be here
if we want to
without that,
perpetuate this line of humanity, you know, it's pretty important part of the sauce there. But you know, it's interesting you would say that too, because we believe in that so much. We talk all about the 360 of a brand and how vitally important it is that you live it, breathe it, and it's a part of every function of your life. And you're obviously doing that, even down to a label that not only is enjoyable if you enjoy wines and no doubt a good product, which we're going to get, by the way, and you know, but it empowers people on the back end too, not just with message, but with a mission, and that's pretty fantastic. I love the ideal focus.
I do too, and I love your turn my mess into my mission.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to quote that all over the place, Heather.
We'll give you credit.
I love it.
Absolutely. It is your thing. It is your thing. So going back to the fear side of things, was there anyone, like you mentioned that experience of the 2:30 a.m. being tossed out, right? Was that really the one experience that taught you how to overcome that fear? Was that it for you? Or was there any other experience or person in your life that taught you those things as well?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's so funny. That was definitely one defining moment that changed my life financially when I had been struggling for so many years. But I have had many different things where I had to face my fear. And what's so interesting is that my lessons primarily came in the form of relationships. So I had other relationships along the way to teach me to own my power as a woman. And it's so funny because when I am working with clients, it could be men or women, if they're having issues in the relationship, I can quickly, design a plan that's going to help them work, help them to kind of shift their energy around that, or that's a bad relationship, or here's what you need to do, here's the writing on the wall. And it really is amazing because I really believe everything is like a teacher, and we have the ability to transform our lives through our perceptions. And that's the work that I do. If you understand that everything is running you, your psychology is running you. And so I can take any so-called trauma. It could be a business trauma, loss of money, helping people through bankruptcies, investing a lot of money that didn't work out. You've got to be able to switch those perceptions. When you do, what happens is you'll open up to new opportunities. And you can't be afraid. Here's another thing I want people to know. You absolutely must value failure as a teacher, because you're never going to get ahead. And I think a lot of times with women, we get so emotional around it, but you must absolutely be able to do that. I was talking with a client the other day that had an experience that, lost $1 million because they trusted this person, and they had to be able to flip the switch around that. So there's so much that we could talk about with this conversation.
Well, I have one follow-up question for you on that. So going back to this moment, that's no doubt one of the life-changing moments for you, where you were tossed out at 2:30 a.m. What was, other than find a place to stay for that night, right? What was the very next thing you did that you feel transformed where you went from there?
Yeah, I made a decision that I was going to get out of this mess. Like I knew I took responsibility. So it's really important for people to take responsibility for things that have happened and not point the fingers. I could have easily said, oh, you're a jerk or whatever, but I took the responsibility, and I got to such a low point that it was my driving force. That fear I used as a driving force, that I was going to do whatever it took. And so the way my brain was working, so before I was asking myself disempowering questions, why am I here? How did I get here? I told myself that somehow, even though I didn't have the answers at the moment, I'm going to find someone to help me to get me out of this mess. So what happens in the brain is when you focus on a solution, you will be able to connect to it because it's impressed into the subconscious mind. A lot of people don't get it. So when you're having like a money issue or a problem that you can't immediately solve, don't try to solve it with analytical thinking. You got to focus. You got to go in there, let go. And that's what I truly did. I let go, and I just focused on what I wanted. And it's just amazing. And that led me to another decision to invest in myself, even when I didn't have the money.
And that was you hiring maybe a coach, much like yourself?
Yes. Yeah. So here's the story. So really quickly, I set an intention. I said, I'm going to find someone to help me because clearly I can't help myself. And so a week later, I found a perfect mentor that I honestly could not afford because I didn't have any money. And here's another breaking point is that I made a decision that I was going to find the money. And this is how your brain works. When you make a decision, you'll connect to the right people and resources. And it was life-changing. In less than 6 months, I turned around my business and, just what I wanted to do. And it was a whole new focus. I wasn't focusing, not at one point during that coaching was I focused on failing. And a lot of times what happens is you might think about investing and then you say, well, what happens if I fail? That is the wrong kind of thinking. So that didn't even cross my radar. I focused all my energy. I would basically eat, work out, and work on my business. Those are the only 3 things I did. And that was extremely transformational.
They show us some of those wine bottles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I just released these the other day, my 2 releases. So this one is what I call my feminist wine. My definition, a woman who chooses to be her own hero. And this is a Carmenere. So for those that love wine that have not tried Carmenere, it is a spicy, bold, red wine, kind of peppery. So it's real fun. It's real fun. And then this other one is called Own Your Value, Earn Your Worth. And that is a Merlot. And then this was one of my first releases, Knowing Yourself. It's like having a superpower. So that is my Cabernet. And then the last one, and this is so timely for the elections. Okay, so we've got my Vote Fierce. Vote Fierce, everyone. Vote Fierce.
I love those. Love it. And why were you drawn to wine? What was that? I mean, other than the obvious, because we're big wine lovers too. So
yeah, well, it's interesting. So my partner, my fiance, we both I joined in on his winery, and he had his own label. And I thought about, when I was asking myself a question, what is it that I can do to expand my brand? I thought, oh my gosh, I love wine. This is another avenue. So we partnered together, and, this is my label, this is my baby. And it was just such a, to me, it just was a smart decision. It made sense so that, we could share the love of wine together, but also empowering women.
And it stands for something. You know, it stands for, you're not having a glass of awesome wine. You're having a glass of wine that means something.
Exactly. So in this is, you know, in the wine, you know, we have a winemaker, so it's not some cheap kind of wine. There's a lot of love that goes into making this wine. So I'm just so proud of it.
You should be,
and it shows. And again, I just love it because it's a 360 deal, like in 100%. Like it's you're surrounding your brand with everything that is you, and everything that has made you who you are up to this point is fantastic. Love your thought process. Love it.
I do too. And I know anybody watching this today, especially if you're a woman and you feel like you could use some more confidence, you could use some betterment in your direction. I can't imagine somebody not being moved by this interview and by what you stand for. I understand you do have a free gift to hand out to a few people today. So tell us about that.
I do. I have two special offers. So the first one is if you like wine, we do ship to most states, only in the U.S. though, unfortunately. So if you want to try one of the Fierce Femme wines, I'm going to give your listeners a savings, a 20% off savings. The code word is fearless. Now the two releases, they may not be on the site. So if they're not, just send me an email. Heather@heatherpicken.com, or if you go to fiercefemme.com, you can message me there. Make sure you give me your phone number and email so I can touch base, and we can ship that out to you once we get it to the warehouse. The second offer is a 30-minute business breakthrough strategy session, and what that is, it's basically kind of looking at where you're at in your business. What are the specific fears? Always look at the internal dialogue of what's going on, and really being able to pinpoint within 30 minutes exactly what your issue is and specifically what you need to do. Because I really find that marketing is secondary. It's necessary, I'm not going to negate it, but it's secondary. And I've worked with all different industries. I've worked with realtors. I've worked with coaches, consultants, service-based providers. I mean, just different industries in general that understand the value of this. So if you go to sessionwithheather.com, you can go ahead and sign up for that. And I'll just kind of keep that time sensitive for the first 5 of your listeners. If you go to my main website, heatherpicken.com, I also have links to fiercefemme.com. They can learn more about the wine, my coaching, training, workshop, leadership programs, and videos. Got lots of free content on there as well.
Awesome. I know people are going to really appreciate that. And I love what you're saying about marketing is secondary. We preach that all the time too, Heather, because before you begin to market yourself, you've got to know where you're going, right? And that is in terms of get out of your own way. As you said, you know, got to get out of your own way. You've got to figure out who you are and where you're going and what it's going to take to get you there. And where we're concerned means you got to define yourself the way you want other people to be attracted to you, the type of people you want to be attracted to you as well. So those things go really hand in hand, and we back that play all day long.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Fearless Friday today. You are one of the best examples of fearless we've seen.
Yeah, I would agree.
Awesome. No, I love it. And I will just have to tell you, like, I always go through fear. Like, it's not like you wake up one day going, okay, it's all over. It's an ongoing process.
Well, folks, it's all about prosperity and everything that prosperity encompasses. So I like to say prosperity favors the bold, so be bold, especially with your brand. Thank you, Heather. You're lovely.
Thank you so much.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. All right. See you guys next time on Fearless Friday.